Welcome to the PR Perspective, where we bring insightful conversations with association executives, industry experts and consultants to educate, inspire and entertain people in the not-for-profit sector. I'm Peta Riles, the founder of PR Association Services and Consulting, and I created this podcast to share strategies, stories and expertise that can help associations thrive. Join me as we explore the unique challenges and opportunities of the not-for-profit world, one episode at a time. I'm speaking with Jenny Boymal, People Specialist with The Proven Group, a people and culture consultancy dedicated to helping businesses thrive. With a focus on creating environments where everybody wins, Jenny specializes in innovative strategies for partnerships, workplace culture, and employee success, making her a leader in the field of people management. Thank you for joining us today, Jenny.
Pleasure, such a pleasure.
Let's jump in. So you've had a fascinating career as a people specialist and consultant. Can you tell us about your journey and how you discovered your passion for supporting people and organisations?
I actually started out as a teacher and absolutely loved every second of it. Teaching was about helping kids identify and see strengths in themselves and their superpowers that they didn't realise. So it's about believing in them before they believed in themselves. And for me, it's, as a teacher, that's your primary role, is to really identify everyone's strengths and to help them shine. So I wanted kids to walk out better than they walked in. I then found myself in my family's business, which was an adult training company, and we're training people, and these exact same messages come to be.
Yeah.
I found that there were all of these customers that we had, a lot of them were the same. So they had turned into an adult of different ages, but they didn't believe in themselves, and I don't think that they had really experienced someone else believing in them.
Yeah.
A large percentage of them have never actually had anyone believe in them. They've never had anyone, they don't know what their strengths are. They went through school, they potentially, maybe had a learning disability or difficulty or, all sorts of, there are all sorts of different reasons.
Churned through the system.
They went through the system and at no point did they go, I am amazing at this, and really have someone back them and really, really showcase and help them nurture their strength. So many people have been really fortunate in that they have. Many people have not been fortunate and haven't had that experience. So if we think about our workforce and we think, well, we've got all these, this mix of people in the workplace. Some know exactly what they're good at. Some really don't. You need people who have different ways of thinking and different experiences and different ways of doing things to actually have that friction in organisations, which helps you thrive and helps you innovate and continuous improvement and really think differently. If we all thought the same, you don't want that. You don't want that. So you need people with different skills and so forth. And so to me, in workplaces, this is, I think, a core piece that's really missing.
Yeah.
So we don't know who we're looking for. We recruit people because we don't know who we're looking for. We don't recruit. We get some random something. That we don't set the person up for success. Then we have performance issues and we point our finger at them and say, oh, that person's so lazy and they're not performing and why are they doing everything wrong? And then, they leave and then we start on the journey again.
Yeah.
And to me, it's really demoralising for everyone. But most of all, imagine the alternative. Maybe I might be a little optimistic and idealistic about life, but I'd rather be that way.
Yes.
For me, I imagine a workplace where everyone's clear on what their values are. You are very clear before you start recruitment. You bring in people who are aligned. You know what skills they have and what they don't have. You really focus on strength spotting and really helping people succeed. You really set them up for success by onboarding them and nurturing them and really building them up. And you, you know, and you grow in that way where people are really motivated and encouraged to thrive.
Yeah.
And everything's aligned to, you know, the business strategy, and off you go. So,
What's been the biggest turning point in your career, and what challenges do you think helped you along the way?
oh, there's so many challenges.
There so are.
Lots of turning points. What has helped me, I think, is my just internal belief that somehow everything will work out.
Yeah. Just genuine optimism.
Genuine
Plowing
optimism.
through with optimism.
Yeah, sometimes a bit too much optimism. But yes, genuine optimism. I believe that people are good, and I believe that you know, together we can achieve more. So, you know, I like to go on the journey with others, and that has been a really incredible, you know, I just find other people fascinating.
Yeah.
You see the good, the bad, and the ugly, but it, you know, it's really fascinating. It's a learning experience. But I do trust, and I would rather trust and be proven wrong than not trust.
Yes. I understand completely.
Yeah. And I think, like, for me, you know, for me, it's really important to work with people who are aligned with me, who have a collaborative mindset. I think a lot of people throw these words around and talk about, you know, collaboration and so forth. But I think in real life, a lot of people don't actually believe it.
Yeah.
You know, like they don't really get what that means. When I say to people, you know, can you give me some examples of how you've collaborated, for example, they're all examples when other people have done things for them. Like, they're not, like, it's not collaboration. This is collaboration in action.
Yeah.
You know, where you kind of, you find ways to add value to one another. And yeah, I think, like, something I learned many years ago, and I'm just, you know, I suppose this is kind of who I am, but, you know, I kind of like to put good out, and, you know, you don't necessarily get good back from that or anything back from that person, but you'll get something from someone else. And, you know, it's, you know, just putting out good karma, and
it helps you sleep at night.
it
Really.
does.
It definitely does.
And I think, like, for me, like, I know that, I mean, there are so many diverse people in this world, but I know I'm a little bit of my own kind of person, you know. I've got my own energy and my, you know, and I think something that's taken a while to kind of learn is you don't have to be liked by everyone. It doesn't matter. You just need to find your tribe who you align with, you value, they value you, and you can make wonderful things happen through that really deep connection. And so I find when I meet people and there really is that alignment, you hold on to them.
I love it.
Yeah.
Looking back in your career, what are some lessons that you've learned that you wish you could pass on to someone else starting out to be a consultant?
I think you have to be generous. I think first of all, people are scared to ask. So they're scared to ask for help. They're scared to be rejected. There's a lot of fear. And I think what's the worst thing someone will say is no. And I'm kind of like, okay, that's okay. So I think that's number one.
Yeah.
So I think ask for help.
Yeah.
And connect with others and learn and be open to learning, and, you know, just see the world through different lenses and different perspectives.
Yeah.
That's number one. I think you want to be surrounded by people who believe in you. So your tribe. So I think that's really, really important. And I think also generosity. Like, you know, when you're starting out especially, but always really, but, you know, think about how you can provide value to others. You know, someone was speaking about it at some point. It's kind of like you've got this kind of social currency, and it's like you know, when you do nice things for others, help them, you know, are generous, it kind of builds this social capital.
It does.
And it's, you know, I'm not doing something for you so that you can do something back for me.
No.
It just is, like, to me, it's part of building a relationship.
Definitely.
And, you know, are you doing it to get something? Like, I'm not. Like, that's kind of, you know, how I roll. I find one of the easiest ways to add value to people, and obviously this is something that comes naturally to me, but I think for everyone it's about finding your way. Like, how can you add value? But for me, the easiest way is introducing people to other people.
Yeah, I've noticed that one.
I think also the other thing is that we meet some amazing people all the time, but we don't keep meeting them with an appointment in the diary, and then we get busy and then things go crazy and everyone's busy doing their own crazy things, and you just not lose contact, but you just lose the spot in the diary where you speak.
Yeah.
So I think for me it's about really kind of looking at, well, who do I, like, when I meet someone and I really connect with them and I really think that there's an opportunity for more and collaboration, I try to keep that in the diary. So I try to say, you know, can we meet, depending on what and who, and, you know, but, you know, could we meet in another month?
So
because,
tending to that network, really fostering and gardening.
Totally. And working out who these people are that, you know, and sometimes it's, you want to connect with someone because you just want to share and you really connect on understanding one another. Sometimes it's about exploring collaboration opportunities with clients, and your clients need each other's stuff. And sometimes it's, you know, something very strategic and long term. So it, you know, there can be different reasons, but you can meet with someone just because we really like each other, we're really values aligned, and we just, it actually just brings us both value by having conversation and gives us perspective.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely.
you know, I really like to seek out people who actually have an alternative perspective to me. So a lot of people kind of end up hanging around, like, so there's a values alignment, so that's a different story, but they've had a different life experience, a different, you know, had just think differently.
Yeah.
And I find it gives me the ability to actually tap into their perspective on different things.
How do you stay inspired and motivated in your work? What do you find the most rewarding about supporting people's development and well-being within their organisation?
Everything. I think that question is me. And I don't have an issue by staying motivated and inspired.
Yeah.
That's not an issue. I find the world a wonderful, inspiring place.
That's fantastic.
And so to me, it's once again being around people who you value and value you, and where you're, you know, where you can just be you. Like,
you definitely seem to radiate joy.
I'm really lucky because I'm really passionate, as you know. And there are diverse things that I'm passionate about. So that, you know, sometimes I wish I could tone it down a little bit. But to me, I think this is actually, it's aligned to that whole conversation about strengths. And I think when people don't know what their strengths are, it's really hard to be passionate, because you kind of want to be succeeding. But I mean, you know, I find that your passions and your strengths, all of it, it always comes with a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
So it's the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I'm passionate about everything. So say yes to way too much, because I'm just so excited by life and the world and everything in it.
And if you're passionate,
you know.
I find that it really has just this ongoing momentum.
Yeah.
And it just keeps piggybacking off each other, and you don't really need too much inspiration if you're incredibly passionate about it. You find the motivation, you find that just by doing what you love.
Totally. And it's interesting because I think, you know, different people call it different things. Some people call it resilience, some people call it optimism. It can be called different things. But I'm just going to talk about, like, kind of this ability to bounce back. And so to me, in saying, you know, I'm passionate and, you know, inspired by the universe, I am. it doesn't mean that you don't have the moments of extreme disappointment in yourself, in others, in stuff that's going on. But what it means is, like, I can bounce from that really fast. Like, I can, at 10 a.m., kind of go, oh, that's so disappointing. I've been working on that for so long and it's not happening. And, you know, I put so much effort into it.
Yeah.
No. And then have an amazing conversation and can move.
Yeah.
You know? And so it's that ability to...
It doesn't take much to get the fire started again when it's something you love.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I noticed that
Yeah.
too. When you're doing something you're so passionate about, you exactly right. You can get knocked down just
Yeah.
like everyone else, and the lows feel crippling. But I find that if it's something that you love and something you feel genuinely excited about, it doesn't take much to kickstart that engine again.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I had a mentor quite a few years ago, and he said activity breeds results. And so, you know, if you're going to sit back, feel sorry for yourself, and just kind of go, I'm going to sit here and just wait for something to happen, it's not generally not going to. No. But so it's the kind of refocusing and coming back to, you know, what it is. So I love work, and I love the process and the destination.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are very kind of goal oriented, and it's almost like the destination is the only outcome, and they don't really care about the process. I love the process of. I love sitting here talking to you.
I think that's a passion, though.
Yeah.
When it's a passion, you love the process.
Yeah.
Like, because that's exactly right. It's the journey when it's the passion, because you're excited about every moment within it.
Yeah.
And it's not just an end result. And if you're focused on an end result, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Because even if you get what you want, there was still a lot of energy that went into that one small moment. And it's like, well, what was the point? So,
Totally.
It's really showing that. I think it's a really great description on what passion does and what motivation does, and that it keeps you engaged, and of course it's not linear, but it's very true.
I think the other thing is also, you know, the concept of strengths and weaknesses, and when we're talking workplaces, a lot of people kind of go, you're really good at ABC, but you're not so good at XYZ. And they go, okay, well, let's start building your skills in XYZ. And there's a lot of research that's been conducted on this. And the reality is, if you build strength, it will be much more impactful than building weakness.
Yeah.
Now, the reality is we're all different, and let's celebrate the difference. Does it matter that this person's a bit worse at this? Or, like, to me, it's about honing strength and really actually, rather than going, this is the job and this is what I need them to do, if someone's got an extreme strength, embrace that and kind of think, well, how can we support them in their areas of weakness? So it's a different way of thinking.
It's also the makings of a specialist, really.
It is so the makings of a specialist.
Yeah. As a successful woman in leadership, how have your experiences shaped your approach to business and leadership? What advice would you give to others looking to break into senior roles or starting their own business as such?
I think, I think it's really important to kind of always be learning. Yeah, always be learning and improving, and find people who can help lift you. So, you know, we've all made mistakes, many, many mistakes. And there are other people who have already made the mistakes that we're about to make, potentially. And so I really think it's about having people who will push us to be the best and believe in us, but at the same time pull us back and question us when we have that opportunity to move.
And that grounding soundboard.
And so it's about having the right mentors, the right coaches, the right influences in your head. You know, they often say that, you know, you are the total of the people who you spend time with.
Yes.
I think that, you know, if you've got goals to, you know, start a business, have a role, change roles, be in a leadership position, like, you need to think about how you're going to get from A to B. And, you know, for some people, they always naturally go to, I've got to do a course. And there are lots of people who are like serial course doers.
Yeah, my father's one of those.
But to me, it's yes, of course, that's a way to learn. But, you know, I love learning from other people's stories, other people's experiences, the mistakes they've made. How can I not make those mistakes?
Yeah.
I'm sure I do, but I can try not to.
Associations often rely heavily on volunteers. How do you think they can effectively manage the dynamic between paid staff and volunteers to maintain more harmony and efficiency?
It's a really interesting dynamic. I love associations, and I've always been a massive supporter of associations in all walks of life. I think it's a really interesting dynamic, and I think that in some ways, when people volunteer, they have this buy-in, and it's also a double-edged sword that comes with the good and the bad. So they're disappointed if things don't work out the way they'd like them to work out, or if there's a decision made to go in a different direction. But they're also willing to, you know, go above and beyond and do ridiculous number of hours and crazy things that you kind of go, how is someone willing to do that for free?
Yeah.
I think associations have got a challenge where some associations are kind of, they've been in existence for, you know, quite a long time, and they're kind of, you know, there are people, volunteers, who almost feel that they have ownership of the association, you know?
That, yes.
And so that can be a challenge. So doing things differently, changing the thinking is hard. And I think a lot of volunteers come in and they're like ready to change the world, and they're really passionate about whatever it is that they're passionate about. And they come in and they realise, oh, no, we've always done it that way, kind of thinking comes in. Really kind of risk-averse conservative thinking. Oh, we tried that once, didn't work. You know, and they get disheartened very quickly. And I'm sure we've all had that experience. And, you know, obviously associations need volunteers. And the volunteers are, you know, the people on the ground. They're the ones who have the eyes and ears of the industry. And so I think their perspective is really important. I mean, a great association can harness the volunteers and utilise them and make them feel valued and valuable, help them make the strategic input and the, you know, the impact, but simultaneously not lean on them so hard that they're burnt out and then they feel really, you know, disgruntled towards the group.
Yep.
So you kind of, it's this really, really fine line. It's a very fine line.
It's a hard one to manage as well with your paid staff and your volunteers. There's entitlement for different reasons on both sides. Yeah. There's the entitlement of, well, this is my job and this is what I get paid for and therefore I have the authority on the subject. And then there's the entitlement of like, but this is my passion and I'm giving my free time, so therefore I'm entitled in this too.
That's exactly right.
And there seems to be a bit of conflicting entitlements that can go on between the two. And so I think it's trying to perhaps get a more understanding between paid staff in associations and volunteer staff, and if they align with why they're both there to do the job.
I really think where associations struggle is actually they become political beasts that they just don't need to be. And that's where I think the paid staff come in. It's like we don't have favourites, we don't have special, we are here to build the industry and we want everyone to be part of it.
Yeah.
I think also the other thing is who gets onto boards to actually make decisions and creating opportunities for volunteers who want to be involved to be involved. I think often, you know, associations aren't creative with how can they harness people's passion.
No,
There's
and I think
little
that's also 'cause
creativity.
they're just so resource poor.
Yeah, but it's almost like they're resource poor in they're so busy doing
Yeah.
that they don't have time to stop and think, you know. How do we harness these people's passions, you know? But the other thing is, do we have the right sort of people sitting around the table who are going to get us from A to B? So is the board selected on their industry knowledge or their who they know, or you know, their passion for the industry, or you know, what are they selected there for? Do we have specialists who are going to help us actually thrive and really take it to the next level? So you know, nowadays, you know, government engagement is really important. Marketing, you know, having marketing knowledge, partnerships, critical for associations, you know, financial. But, you know, can you get a board of people who actually represent diversity in the different functions that a thriving association really needs, so that you're actually moving to where you need to go?
Yeah.
You know?
So making sure that you have a diverse group of people that are each having their own role moving forward, and that your volunteers and your paid staff know exactly what's expected of them and each other, and that way they can create a more harmonious environment moving forward.
Completely.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, the dynamic between an executive director, CEO, and the board is always an interesting one.
Yeah.
And to me, it's, you know, it's about, you know, really setting the stage for that strategic plan and being that very strategic piece. And then, you know, the paid staff being the implementers of, and then it's about, you know, really kind of honing into the details of, you know, the marketing plan and the, you know, these different, you know, the membership plan. But, you know, ultimately, I think it's all about adding value to members, really advocating for the sector and helping the sector thrive, creating opportunities, collaborations that are going to help the sector. And I think people just get so messed up in, you know, this is what we do, that they forget what they're actually here to do.
Yeah.
You know?
What strategies can leaders use to motivate and retain staff volunteers in the not-for-profit sector where financial incentives are limited?
Well, I mean, I think it's about making people feel valued.
Yeah.
And helping people feel that they're working in their area of strength.
Yeah.
You know, I think simple thank yous are often all that volunteers want.
Yeah.
You know, they want to know that someone noticed and someone appreciates.
And that they're adding value.
Opening kind of your eyes and listening and having conversations. Most people are members of an association and have never really had an opportunity, like no one's spoken to them and actually asked them, what do they think? What are the challenges? What are the, you know, some associations do, you know, kind of industry surveys or, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But a lot have no idea what their members actually think.
Yeah.
And to
really
me,
true.
that's about how you get people involved, is talking to them and really understanding what are they most concerned about, and can we get them involved in something?
A more finger on the pulse approach to the members, and making sure that
Absolutely.
you're getting accurate feedback and you're getting feedback, and
Yeah, and creating an environment where you bring people together to have conversations and everyone's feeling heard.
Yeah.
So it's not that one voice is louder than another. It's where everyone, you know, has an opportunity, and also helping members shine.
Well, I've rarely
You know?
met a member that doesn't have an opinion.
I think when people get to a point where, look, they don't have an opinion, I think that's a very desperate and horrible place to be, because like obviously they've tried and they've, you know, but people don't know how to engage in associations. So like, you know, they join, they think that money's just going to fall from the sky. So expectations are always very interesting. But, you know, what are you offering members? Like, why should they continue? We know that cost of living's up. We know that cost of doing business is up. Why should someone pay for membership for the association?
Yeah.
And so I think I mean, to me, it all also comes back to continuous improvement. So a lot of associations are very kind of, they've been doing things in a certain way and they're very comfortable
Yeah.
in that.
They get safe. Or they
Very-
feel like they're safe. And then
but
they
they're
don't
not
stand-
safe.
No, because they're not growing.
And how do you turn members from that whole conversation around I'm a paying member, why am I paying my membership, to actually being an advocate?
Yeah.
You know, and really encouraging advocacy.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a whole thing. It's interesting, but I think, you know, and you know, I'm really passionate about partnerships and sponsorships in associations. Like to me, I think suppliers in industries, number one, they're already dealing with other companies who could be members.
Yeah.
So to me, they are your opportunity. And second of all, often they are innovating solutions that the industry needs.
Yeah.
So I find in associations, you often have this kind of, there's like this subclass membership of suppliers, and like, you know, you just want to sell to me, so I'm going to kind of banish you to stand in the corner over there kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But to me, it's like, well, how can we provide value to them? How do we bring them in, and how do we get them to provide value to us as an association? How do we provide value to them in a way that really helps them thrive, and so that when they come to member events, they don't need to feel that they need to sell to members?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, that's why they're doing it, because there's not that many member events, and when they do come, they're the only opportunities they have to meet anyone.
And people feel like they're being pushed upon to sell
That's
wares,
exactly right.
And they're just commodities for these people to sell.
Yeah, so it's a really, that dynamic I find really fascinating. I love it, because I think suppliers in every industry are just have the desire and the passion to really drive things forward.
Yeah.
But they're kind of like, hang on, you're a supplier, you've got a vested interest. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of that,
I really do.
It's kind
very
of like
much
this
mentality.
really, it's a really...
It is funny. They do actually have that attitude towards suppliers, particularly in the conferences. You see it quite a lot. It's interesting. In your experience as a people specialist, what role does clear communication play in fostering productive and positive culture? And how can leaders improve it?
It's always a work in progress.
Yeah.
You know, and everyone has different communication styles. Everyone likes different forms of communication. I think trust is at the core of it. So, and that values alignment. So I think if you have values alignment and trust with people, even if we might communicate differently, I know that you're coming from a good place, and you make assumptions that are in the person's favour. You kind of fill the gaps for them. You know, oh, I know she's really busy, or maybe she was a bit short because she's really busy or stressed or whatever, but, you know, it wasn't me. Whereas if you don't have that trust and you don't have that values alignment, you're always questioning other people's intentions and overanalyzing and wondering, oh, did I do something wrong? And then you speak to the person and it's like, no, you know. I think, you know, people kind of make all these assumptions.
Yeah.
And it's really hard. Like, you know, when we do employee engagement surveys or different surveys in workplaces, the number one thing people complain about is communication. And it's kind of like, is it ever going to be right? I don't know. But you know, if you've got that values alignment, and I think also, you know, what people are looking for now, I think, you know, previously the big driver was money. How much am I earning? Now there's a lot of, you know, there are a lot of drivers. There's work-life balance. There's a lot of drivers. I think people want to feel valued. They really, really want to feel valued. They want to feel that they're part of something impactful. And so I think when you are part of something like that, communication is much easier.
And what do you think is the fastest way to build trust in communication or with people in general?
Care.
Yeah.
Talk to people.
Yeah.
Care. But I think, you know, it comes back to that whole piece that I was talking about earlier about getting really clear on who you're hiring and how to find someone who is aligned on values. And that becomes critical, because ultimately once you've employed someone and you realize not a good values alignment, it's really hard to do something about it. It's really challenging.
Yeah.
So we talk a lot about a concept of radical transparency. And it starts...
Explain that to me.
Well, it starts from the beginning. It's like people are wanting to work in an organisation where they know what's going on from the beginning to the end. And you can see from someone's recruitment process,
Yeah.
you know, being up front. A lot of people are kind of trying to hide how much they're wanting to pay, and, you know, it's this whole game. And it's like, you've spent all this time courting this person, and you get to the conversation about, you want to offer them the job, and you find you're completely misaligned on dollars. And it's like, why did you waste everyone's time doing that?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, sometimes it's just a misalignment. It's like, you're not going to ever match, you know? And so we kind of really look at it and go, really, if you are transparent the whole way, you're actually going to find the right people. You know, the classic is when people are hiring and they know that they've got a toxic workplace. They've got, like, something's gone terribly wrong. Yeah. And it happens to everyone. Like, it's like something is not working at all. There are people who actually want to come in and help fix. There are those people who love that and actually thrive on that and find it really exciting. Whereas there are those people who would run 100 miles. Why would you interview someone and tell them about your amazing values, which you do have, but not share with them about the challenges? And then they walk in and they're like, hang on, are we talking about the same workplace? Like,
you've been bait and switch.
Yeah, and it's like, that completely doesn't build trust from day one.
Exactly.
So it's, you know, it's this radical transparency, and it's the whole way. It's the whole way through, you know, communicating, having real conversations with people, checking leaders, knowing how to lead and actually inspire people, and checking in often to actually go, how are you doing? What's working? What's not? And constantly kind of building. And that's what it's about. It's so radical transparency is from the top down, the bottom up. It's everywhere. It's actually, you know, it's that kind of ability for everyone to feel that they can contribute at whatever level. It doesn't matter what their job title is.
Yeah. I've always been an advocate of absolute transparency.
Yeah.
But I've always found it has such beautiful, positive results.
This is the alignment. This is what I'm talking about. Like, to me, people need to be aligned. You like, values is everything.
I found the radical transparency really inviting.
Yeah.
I actually really wanted to get on board. So, I mean, there's definitely merit in it.
Yeah.
To help people. And then you're getting the right person that knows what they're in for. Exactly. And they're not feeling tricked, really. How do you think people practices and associations have evolved in recent years? And where do you see the future of people strategy?
A lot of associations struggle to really develop a really strong strategic plan. And I think everything starts from a strong strategic plan.
Some don't even have a strategic plan.
No. And so that, to me, is that's the centerpiece. And so how would you have a people strategy if you don't have a strategic plan? Because no one knows where they're going.
Do one.
Yeah. And so I think that, and look, I think associations are amazing. I think associations often punch so far above their weight. We're involved with some amazing associations. And then you have associations that have a lot of people, and they're just kind of like, there's not a lot of direction to it. You know, you've got the small associations, the bigger associations. You know, there's so much variety. But I really think that the biggest difference is the strategic plan. Like, is there an alignment between the CEO, executive director, and the board? Like, to me, everyone needs to be aligned, and you know, and
I think that also, but that comes into making sure that you have the correct board too. That you've got a diverse group of people that understand different aspects.
Absolutely, but also a board. Like, if you're a board member, you of an association's about bringing the industry together. And so if you don't have that, and that's not what's important to the board, and then you don't have those sorts of people, it's really hard. It's really hard because they're often the faces that are known. You know, they're
the
team,
pictures on the website.
That's right. The team often changes, but they're the people within the industry. You want to make sure you've got people who are not just there to have their name on the website and on their resume. You want on their LinkedIn profile.
They don't understand what it is to be a board member.
I think people don't know how to be a good board member.
Yeah, I think induction is something that severely lacks.
Yeah, and you need to have a board who are passionate and enjoy what they're doing.
Yeah.
To me, it's all about that onboarding and it's employee, volunteers. It's all kind of, you need to do these things. You need to set people up for success. And I think often associations don't have processes in place, and so it takes the board forever to know what they're doing. And
what's their lane? That's why your inductions are so vital.
Yeah, it's really not ideal.
So that they're contributing correctly and within their lane. Yeah. That's very, very true. Yeah. Can you share a time where you helped an association or organisation overcome a major challenge? How'd you turn it around for them?
We did a lot of work with a particular association. They had some, associations sometimes go through these times of turmoil where, where there's a really big change in the board, almost like an industry overthrowing kind of experience.
It was like a good time.
And it was a great time. And so we were able to come in and really build an onboarding process to help a recruitment and onboarding process. The onboarding was really, really significant because it was, how can we get people set up for success, build knowledge quickly, really get the right people into the right positions fast, and was really, really successful and very, very impactful, and took a lot of pressure off the board and allowed them to go back into their strategic positions as opposed to sitting in operations. But getting that mix in place to really ensure that you've got people set up for success.
Seems to keep going back to that induction process, like that being such a foundation of making sure that your operations and your organisation are running correctly, and that your people are happy and they understand their role, and then they have a better empathy for everyone else as well if there's transparency within the roles.
That's right. And it comes back to values as well. So, I mean, if you're a membership organisation, members are pretty important in a membership organisation. Knowing that relationship with members is critical, and how do we actually go out and build that is really, really important. And I think also, like, for associations, there's a real threat to staying alive and staying in business.
Definitely.
So it's really looking at that diversification of income streams and how can you work with suppliers to really, innovate in a different way, and think differently so that everyone's winning. Yeah. It's really about creating a thriving industry. Yeah. So how's that going to happen?
Yeah, which I think it brings us to sponsors. Is also another one for them too, because associations often rely on sponsors for funding and for support. What do you think is the first step in creating compelling sponsorship that attracts the right partners?
I think customization.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's a out-of-the-box kind of sponsorship that's going to work for everyone. Of course, that there are some guidelines and some kind of, core kind of, this is how we think it will work. But it's about adding value to one another. So what I want sponsors in associations who are going to add value to the association.
Yep.
I want them to promote through their network. I want them to promote more broadly. I want them to make introductions. I want them to see opportunities. I want them to bring on other sponsors. This is what I want my sponsors to be doing. And I think people kind of go, this, I don't want to name any companies, but BC is happy to pay $30,000. Let's bring them on and collect their cash. And I think, yes, of course we want their $30,000. However, if they're there just as a name and they don't bring any value to the members and they don't bring anything to the member offering and they don't promote and they don't introduce and they don't bring more value and it's all about what's in it for them, I think you're really short-sighted. So what are we going to do? Are we going to run roundtable events specifically for the sponsor on topics of their choice? But that you invite members to it. And then you as an association are adding value to the members and really kind of at the forefront of having these conversations. Is the sponsor going to give people an opportunity to have a competitive edge? Is it going to help drive the industry forward? What are they doing? This is wild, but does the sponsor have really good international connections and they might do an international tour to look at how the industry is doing things in other areas of the world? It can be broad and wild and creative. Could they run education? There are all sorts of things that they could do and
looking
willing
outside
to
of the
do.
financial relationship.
And that's the thing, like a lot of companies, they don't know how to do partnerships and the association doesn't know how to do it. And so it kind of is really like this, you pay me money, I'll put your logo. And it's very like...
That's pretty much it, really.
It's how boring can you get? And then they stand up at the conference and they talk about themselves and it's just so boring.
You're a platinum sponsor.
Yeah, and it's just boring. And so to me, it's like, I think, to me, the best associations are actually specialists at activating the membership to love the sponsor and activating the sponsor to grow the membership. So it has to work in all directions. Could they bring 2 clients of theirs to sit on the stage and they interview the clients and talk about practical implications of whatever? And, a client who maybe has had a whole bunch of challenges, a client who's done something really wild and innovative and other people would find really interesting to learn from.
Yeah.
To me, that's a much better showcase of the sponsor
I
than someone
agree.
standing up there flogging a demo of themselves.
I love that idea. I do.
And so it's all of this. It's, how can you as an association be amazing at directing the sponsor to thrive,
But I love that innovation and that idea of actually having an interactive experience with the sponsors.
Your goal as the association has to be to think creatively about how are you going to have an experience that people will remember, add value to the members and the sponsors, but make it fun and make it interesting. And, no one wants stuffy. And so but you've got to be creative and you've got to be open and you've got to think about, how is this going to work, and think about experiences you can do that sponsors would love to pay for because they're so wild and different and really they want to be associated with that kind of innovation.
Yeah.
So it's I don't think that there's a shortage of people who want to pay for the sponsorship. I just think
How do you
people
get the
aren't
sponsors
packaging it in a way that is actually enticing. And then everyone wins by everyone winning. And it's kind of snowballs. So.
And then people feel like they've been less sold to as well.
Absolutely.
And more actually been given a good time instead of just listening to a sales pitch over and over and over again in different ways.
I want to hear stories of people who have done amazing things. Lessons.
In your experience, what are some common mistakes associations make when they work with sponsors?
Thinking inside the square.
Yeah.
I think having a lot of rules that they place upon themselves. And I think...
a rubric of you are a sponsor and this is this.
So sometimes there are these competing demands. So we as an association have to be financially viable. And so we see you as a $30,000 sign.
Yeah.
Yeah. All I can see is I look into your eyes and all I see is $30,000.
Yeah.
There are so many different ways that you might be able to actually turn that 30,000 into 60,000 by just being creative, just thinking about how you could do it differently. And I think there are some companies that have a proven track record. They have done this already with other associations and added so much value. So how are they adding value to the member benefits? So when you're selling membership, you can go, this is a benefit of membership.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, I'll pay the $1,000 just for that.
Yeah.
It's about being creative. But I think there are a lot of suppliers who really love working with associations, but often it's just too hard. And so they build those relationships and they really can make wonderful things happen. And then, yeah, there are people who don't get it. There are people who pay the money and they pay the $30,000 and there's no value from them whatsoever.
Yeah, just
because they just turn up. It's the logo. They're stuffy, and they don't bring any oomph. Like, they've got to add value. What can they do to add value? And also, how are they going to? A lot of times people are like, "Oh yeah, we've got this big database and we'll promote it to the database," but they don't.
Yeah, and it's just cold canvassing anyway. Really,
if you could tap into other people's budgets to market on your behalf. Even like marketing that they're sponsoring a conference, so many people just don't do it. Like they don't put out to their client base to say, I'm going to be at this event. People are like, oh my gosh, I saw photos from that event. I didn't even know it was on, and it's like,
yeah,
to get the value as a sponsor, you create the value as well. So it's like this, it's almost like, how do we teach sponsors to be the best sponsors?
Yeah.
And how do you teach the associations to actually just be able to just open your thinking ever so slightly.
Yeah.
And then the challenge is you get approached by all these people all the time, go, I've got the this newest butte, whatever, it's going to make millions and millions of dollars. How about you promote it to your association? You get 0.5% and blah, 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 whatever. So you get that as well. Yeah. And so it's you're not going to say yes to every single one. And also you kind of, if you have too many sponsors, it devalues it all as well. So it's, you've got to, it's got to be a part of the strategy. But if you believe that suppliers in the industry drive innovation and are going to add a lot of value to members, it's important to invest in a really strong strategy of how sponsorship works as part of the organisation and a supplier strategy.
Yeah.
So I think they're the most untapped market who really have a lot of time and incentive to grow the industry. So, yeah.
Yeah. What do you think the future of sponsorships and associations look like, especially with digital transformations and changing social dynamics?
I think it's a really strong partnership. It's not transactional. It's a real partnership.
Yeah.
It's looking at how can we add value? How do we engage more? How do we build the relationships? Very relationship focused. So less about purely collecting money, more about the experience and the value.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, Jenny. It was such a pleasure to talk to you. I really appreciated having you on and educating us with people strategy, HR, and sponsorship tactics. It's been absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much.